Let's go back in time to the beginning of Steve. Born just a few days after the end of World War II, when the coast was clear. As a teenager, he was confronted with the typical problems teenage boys face: what to do with your hands. He found magic, balloon animals, and of course, the banjo. Most banjo players choose either clawhammer or Scruggs style, but Steve chose both and got really good at both. While most teenagers might have used cars as some sort of laboratory to study conjugal techniques, Steve would sit in his car and practice banjo, as for some reason it wasn't working out inside the house. While growing his career in stand-up comedy, he was also writing banjo tunes and got to record several in off hours during the making of the Will the Circle Be Unbroken album. There he is. The tunes later appeared as a full side of an LP album, The Steve Martin Brothers, which reached many ears, including Ned Librecki's, leading him on a path that he's on now. After 10 years touring the country's comedy clubs in the middle 70s, everything finally came together. It's the iconic photo. With groundbreaking appearances on Saturday Night Live and The Tonight Show. The banjo was still in the act and the public loved it, getting major television exposure in the pre-internet era, even if for only a glorious 15 seconds at a time. Let's go back 40 years.
Not a happy sound, you just can't sing a depressing song when you're playing the banjo. You just can't go, oh, death and grief and sorrow. You're playing the banjo, everything's okay. Hey, Steve, your house is burning down. I just thought the banjo was the one thing that could have saved Nixon. On television, right at the right time. Oh, everything's great. I think it'd be great if you had been traveling around the country and got off the plane and said, I'd like to talk about politics, but first a little Foggy Mountain breakdown.
For an extremely interesting and funny account of his slow and uncertain but always hard-working rise to fame, I highly recommend Steve's autobiographical memoir. It was a bestseller when it came out about 8 years ago or so, Born Standing Up. Highly recommended book. Very funny and instructive as well. Steve's touring as a stand-up comic yielded to many beloved starring movie roles, with an amazing galaxy of major stars, many of whom were unfortunately unable to attend this luncheon due to prior commitments. In 2002, the sun rose again on the banjo in Steve's life with an invitation from Earl Scruggs to play on what turned out to be Earl's final album. That led to a memorable shot on the David Letterman show and a cover story in Banjo Newsletter, in which he was asked if he might ever make a full banjo record. He answered, no, I don't think I'm going to do that. It's strictly hobby and fun. That was a good joke, Steve. In the interview, Steve discussed his continuing passion for the banjo and his awareness of the bluegrass scene. Bluegrass people started reaching out to him, and soon he was hosting picking parties. That's his backyard there in California, and also in New York. He would get pickers together. In 2005, he formed a banjo group with Mr. Scruggs and 3 other banjo pickers called Men with Banjos Who Know How to Use Them, performing at the New Yorker Festival and on the Letterman show. Next, was an invitation to record an original tune with Tony Trischka, and soon he was turning out banjo tunes again at a prolific rate. Some of the tunes became songs, including the touching Daddy Played the Banjo and the hilarious Late to School. In 2008, Steve cut his first full music album, The Crow, winning a Grammy. All music. And leading to many millions of TV viewers again hearing his creative music on talk shows, on Saturday Night Live, and get this, an appearance on the IBMA Awards show, and a Bluegrass Unlimited cover story. Steve, I think it's safe to say you've made it. 7 years ago, last month, Steve attended for his first Bluegrass Festival in Brevard, North Carolina. His wife, Ann, had introduced him to her old friend, Woody Platt of the Steep Canyon Rangers. And that weekend, the Steeps invited him on stage to play his tune, The Crow. It went well. Having not toured as a performer since entering movie making over 30 years earlier, Steve tentatively tried a few short and small-sized gigs with the Steeps, and it went well. So, Carnegie Hall. He wrote new tunes and made the band rehearse them. Imagine that. And this is backstage at Carnegie Hall, and I believe Paul Simon is there in that picture, watching. They started taking gigs all over the country, even in Carnegie Hall, where he insisted on coming out first, so it would be he opening for Ralph Stanley instead of the other way around. This bunch won Entertainer of the Year in 2011 and has recorded 3 albums together to date. When New York singer Edie Brickell expressed an interest in co-writing, they tried a unique method. He would record a new tune on his phone and email it to her, who'd then create and overlay a song with its own melody to complement Steve's tune. The magic of Edie singing her creations backed by Steve's tunes yielded another album and another Grammy. Steve and Edie recently wrote a full-blown musical, Bright Star, soon to open at the Kennedy Center and aiming for Broadway. It features bluegrass music on stage and a touching story set in North Carolina, mid-1900s. Steve Martin has brought the banjo and bluegrass to more new worlds than possibly any musician besides Earl Scruggs, Bill Monroe, and Pete Seeger, probably. We all know how much our music has been helped across the board through exposure through movies and television. Beverly Hillbillies, Bonnie and Clyde, Deliverance, Oh Brother. Someone said, in recent years, that boost has come from Steve Martin. Steve, we can't thank you enough. How about a Distinguished Achievement Award for Steve Martin?
It's a tie. First of all, I want to thank you, Pete. That was lovely. And